Modern professional networking platforms rely on the continuous ingestion of massive personal data. These centralized entities aggregate millions of career histories into remote servers. This creates a highly asymmetric relationship. The user provides detailed, valuable career intelligence for free, which the platform then monetizes. In return, the user's professional visibility is entirely determined by opaque algorithmic ranking systems that prioritize platform engagement over user success. This table outlines these systemic failures. Aggregators scrape indiscriminately, causing severe data pollution with spammy listings. Recommendation algorithms act as an unexplainable black box. Finally, candidates must upload sensitive API keys to remote servers, creating massive vulnerabilities for data breaches. Once the candidate applies, their data is handed over to corporate applicant tracking systems. These systems are not built for holistic evaluation. They are defensive filters designed to eliminate the maximum number of resumes using rigid keyword parameters. Between volume-driven data pollution, black box recommendation algorithms, and defensive corporate filtering, the current job search ecosystem structurally works against the candidate. JustHireMe is an open-source artificial intelligence agent engineered specifically to invert this dynamic. Rather than relying on blind automation, it operates on deterministic transparency. The user dictates parameters, and the agent executes them, keeping highly sensitive career data completely private. It is built as a zero-dependency engine. This means it achieves operational self-sufficiency on the user's host machine, eliminating the need for continuous external SaaS subscriptions and actively preventing vendor lock-in. The central engineering challenge here is severe, deploying a highly complex, multi-agent AI system so that it runs natively on standard consumer desktop hardware without offloading heavy computation to cloud APIs. Executing these tasks locally keeps the user's career intelligence under their own physical control, moving the computational burden from a remote server back to their own hardware. Running intensive language models, web scrapers, and embedded databases requires strict resource management, especially on a consumer operating system that is already running background tasks. This diagram maps the local data flow. The top presentation layer is built in strictly typed React to prevent runtime errors when handling complex data. Directly beneath is the Tauri desktop shell, chosen over Electron to avoid severe memory bloat. Tauri relies on Rust for strict memory safety guarantees, creating a secure anchor for operating system integration. Operating adjacent to this shell is a dedicated Python Sidecar process, managed by to ensure the environment remains completely isolated and reproducible. This isolation is deliberate. Asynchronous web scraping, complex natural language processing, and database migrations are computationally heavy. Running these tasks in the front end would instantly lock up the user interface. To connect these two distinct halves, the system uses Fast API and WebSockets. This provides a low-latency, bi-directional communication bridge, allowing the UI to accurately reflect the real-time execution states of the underlying AI agents. Storing and analyzing a candidate's career data presents a unique database challenge. A standard monolithic relational database is highly inefficient at mapping the sequential progression of a human career or executing semantic searches. Look at the database layer. Instead of a single monolith, JustHireMe uses 3 specialized engines. The first is SQLite, the foundational relational CRM layer. SQLite handles tabular data, tracking application states and deduplicating job leads. To comprehend semantic meaning, the system introduces LanceDB. Text is converted into high-dimensional numerical vectors representing contextual intent. This mathematically calculates the conceptual alignment between a job and a candidate, even with 0 keyword overlap. Finally, to capture chronological nuance, the system employs Kuzu, a property graph database. This enables graph retrieval augmented generation. If a job requires 3 years of React experience, specifically within the fintech sector, the system generates a complex cipher query. It traverses the graph, looking for an unbroken node link from the user to the technology within the correct domain project, spanning the required duration. This continuous link acts as structural proof of capability, evaluating the actual chronology of an engineer's work history rather than scanning for isolated words. Combining semantic vectors for conceptual alignment with property graphs for a structural validation produces a deterministic, explainable score for candidate fit, all calculated natively on the device. To move data through this tripartite brain, the Python sidecar uses LangGraph. LangGraph models the application lifecycle as a state machine, orchestrating a sequence of autonomous agents across a directed acyclic graph. The workflow begins with the Scout agent. It utilizes a hybrid collection strategy to avoid reliance on a single platform, combining APIs for broad network discovery with local instances to deep scrape niche community job boards. As raw leads arrive, the Scout passes them through a deterministic quality gate. Postings that are stale, thin on details, or clearly spam are permanently discarded before they ever reach the local CRM. Surviving leads move to the evaluator agent, which queries the graph databases to generate a mathematical fit score. High-scoring leads trigger the generator agent, which dynamically rewrites the user's base resume into a highly tailored, compiled PDF. Finally, the actuator agent physically submits the application. To bypass anti-bot defenses, it uses Playwright jitter, randomizing delays and utilizing Bezier curve mouse paths to simulate human imperfections. If modern corporate applicant tracking systems use heavily obfuscated code to block standard scraping, the actuator falls back to an experimental vision language model. It screenshots the rendered web page, maps the visual coordinate space, and commands the operating system to click specific pixels exactly as a human would. By default, the system runs in sniper mode, heavily scouting leads but pausing to require human authorization. For maximum efficiency, users can enable ghost mode, operating the entire pipeline silently on a continuous schedule. Dividing the application lifecycle across highly specialized independent nodes allows the system to execute sophisticated anti-detection maneuvers while keeping the candidate in total control of the final output. While the architectural foundation is solid, JustHireMe is an actively iterating alpha-stage software. Pushing highly complex, local-first environments to disparate end users generates intense engineering friction. This repository dashboard tracks the project's health. The high star count and fork numbers indicate strong market appetite, while the volume of open pull requests reveals rapid bug patching and multi-OS community engagement. The issue tracker exposes the reality of distribution. For instance, the strict security architecture of macOS Gatekeeper frequently terminates the application upon launch. If the cryptographic team ID on the compiled Rust binary doesn't perfectly match the bundled Python framework, the operating system aggressively blocks execution. Users have also documented race conditions during the initial boot sequence, where the Python backend attempts to execute before the SQLite database has properly migrated its tables, resulting in instant application crashes. Bundling compiled memory-safe binaries, 3 separate database engines, and an isolated Python environment into a single executable that runs perfectly across Windows, Mac, and Linux remains one of the hardest technical challenges in desktop software engineering. To manage this technical debt, the project's strategic roadmap outlines a massive structural refactoring. The current monolithic codebase is being fractured into cleanly isolated internal microservices. By drawing strict boundaries between the databases, the orchestrator, and the user interface, the developers significantly lower the cognitive barrier to entry. An open-source contributor can write a scraper for a new local job board without needing to understand the underlying React framework. The repository also reveals an active Model Context Protocol server. This is an emerging technical standard that allows overarching generalized desktop AI assistants to securely query the user's localized career databases directly. Crucially, this codebase operates under the strict AGPL 3.0 license. If a major corporation attempts to host this software over a network as a proprietary cloud service, they are legally mandated to release their modified source code, exploiting the open-source labor for enclosed SaaS profit. Coupling robust interoperability standards like the Model Context Protocol with defensive licensing establishes JustHireMe as a secure, foundational data layer for personal desktop AI.